Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I am Sanika Etalo.
And thank you for joining us on this Monday morning.
I don't know what it feels like, Marlene. I mean, over the weekend it was fairly hot. Then it got windy. And then overnight, I don't know what we'll describe that as, but
Yeah, I'm
erratic
looking forward
weather.
to our weather report because it is very strange. It got a
Yeah.
bit windy during the day yesterday and then it got very hot. Looks cloudy,
Yeah.
like there might be rain, but we'll find that out very soon in our weather update. Of course, there is a lot happening, so we're going to get moving into some of our housekeeping for today and get you started with some motivation. And that means our eye-opener taken from dailyom.com. We forget how powerful our words are, and when we make promises, it is up to us to make sure we keep our words sacred. Ever since human beings could speak to one another, they have been making promises and keeping them or not keeping them. Those who keep their promises are regarded as people of integrity, while those who don't keep their promises are regarded as people who, at best, can't be taken seriously and, at worst, can't be trusted. Sometimes we forget how powerful our words are, and we use them haphazardly or unconsciously, creating expectations that are never fulfilled, leaving disappointment and distrust in our wake. We may ask to be released from any promises made to ourselves or others in our present, past, or future lives, consciously or unconsciously, that are holding us back from fulfilling our greatest. We may ask that love, light, and healing be sent to any souls who have suffered from our inability to be true to our word, including ourselves. We can ask for the wisdom to do our best and from this point forward to be true to our word, promising only what we truly intend to deliver. The resulting clear conscience and liberated energy will illustrate this truth. We are only as good as our word.
So, there's this expression that we're all used to, right? Your word is all you have. I'll kind of deviate a little bit from what is shared directly in the eye opener to say this, right? Promises and children. When you tell a child that you will do something and that child holds you to your word, one can only imagine the disappointment when you fail to keep your promise or to live up to your words, right? And so when you look at the idea of how powerful our word is, even if you take it out of the context of family life, for instance, you're at work or you're elsewhere and you say, okay, I will be there to pick you up at a certain time. I promise. That means that you have that obligation to live up to. You've given your word, right? And then you fall short of it. It can become annoying. But at the same time too, Marlene, sometimes we make promises that are unrealistic. And so we live our life trying to chase behind something that we know is too distant for us to even draw, near enough to be able to realize it as a dream or something like that. And so when I look at the eye opener in full, when I look at everything that is shared in the eye opener about the strength of the word and what promises mean, I think for me, it's something that I need to reflect carefully on, because I too make certain promises that I can't keep for whatever reason, I may be caught up with something else, or it's no longer a priority at that point in time for me, but to the other person that I've said that I've given my word to, they're waiting for me to come through.
Yeah. No, it's so important. I love the example that you use with children, because when you put it into perspective, it is the foundation that is being built on how much you can trust people. And we do it all the time. I think I've become more conscious of it over time, where I may tell the little ones in the family, okay, on this day we're going here, on this day we're doing this, and then the day comes and it doesn't happen. With no explanation. Because if something does happen, part of the lesson is to say, well, I know I promised X, Y, and Z. This is, I apologize, and this is what I'm going to do to remedy. But imagine them growing up in a world where people say they're going to do things and never do it. What will they believe as adults? So that's such a great example of how important it is that we are people who keep to our words. And you're right. You know, it's not just about being flaky or making promises that you can't or don't intend to fulfill. That, of course, is something that you have to try to remove from your behavior. But there are times where you can't fulfill a promise. And what do you do, and how do you address it, and what do you say in order to have at least a decency of an explanation to the other person with whom you formed this commitment? So, I mean, it is always something that is heralded as exemplary, you know, being a person of your word. You make a commitment, you follow through. And that leads you really to the beginning point. Be sure to commit to things and promise things that you actually intend to attempt to pursue, or that you intend to execute. And that starts with just saying no sometimes and saying, I can't promise that. I can't commit to that. I'm not in a position to be able to promise that to you, and saying that word no, which is hard for many.
It is hard for many. Like, again, when you look at the idea of giving your word, your honest word, versus telling someone, you know what, I don't think it's possible, or I'm not in a position, or I'm unwilling to do something. It's the most difficult thing to face someone and say no. And I've always found it interesting that some people, for them, no comes easy. For other people, because we're altruistic, or we consider other people's feelings and what have you, no is the most difficult word to come by.
That is true. I hear you. It takes work. It takes work. But yeah, you know, sometimes it comes from a people-pleasing type of personality. Other times it's because we may be overly ambitious with our time and energy. But if you are committing to things that you can't follow through on, then that also sets you back on your goals. So a great thing to take into consideration as you start your day. If you promise your little ones that you're making pancakes this morning, get in the kitchen and start now. Or have a valid reason to explain to them why that's not going to happen. That's one example. All right, so that is our eye-opener for this morning. And with that, Isani, we got to find out what our weather is going to be like for today. And our forecast for this morning is going to be
moist
from
and unstable
Francisca,
conditions
Wellington.
prevail and will support sunny skies with cloudy spells today and cloudy skies at times tonight. A few showers and isolated thunderstorms will affect the country, especially southern areas. A few showers and isolated thunderstorms will continue Tuesday, decreasing Tuesday night. Winds today will blow from the east and southeast at 10 to 20 knots with occasional higher gusts. Moderate seas will become rough at times, and a small craft caution is now in effect. Low tides occur at 10:31 this morning and 11:32 tonight. High tides follow at 4:37 this evening and 5:52 tomorrow morning. Temperatures this afternoon peak at 82 Fahrenheit up in the Maya Mountains, 86 along the coast, and 92 inland. The sun sets at 6:20 this evening, and the moon comes up at 1:34 tomorrow morning. In the sargassum forecast, coastal areas across the country will continue to be affected by sargassum during the next few days. In the fire forecast, during the next 24 hours, fire risk will become low over the northern half of the country and remain low over southern parts. That's the latest from the Belize Weather Bureau. Do have a pleasant day.
So there you have it. There is some rain coming. Maybe not if you're in the south, most likely. In other parts of the country, it is a possibility.
Yeah.
But those gusty winds, 10 to 20 knots.
Well, we've been feeling them, as I said, overnight. You could hear the wind howling, you know, the trees swaying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the zincs on the roofs are lifting. But you know, that's a good precursor to the hurricane season, which starts next month. You'll know whether or not you have to yeah, whether or not there's some work that has to be done on your roof. This is your testing period. All right, but with that, we're going to get moving into discussing some of the news coming out from the weekend and what we can look forward to in the week ahead. So let's shift gears to Eye on the News.
I think the first thing I want to be able to discuss this morning, Marlene, is an issue that remains very much controversial in certain parts of our Belizean society, primarily for people who are into small business and what have you. I say small business because we're talking vendors, we're talking creatives who are in the entertainment industry, and you know, people within that sector. The House Committee begins its meetings with respect to the Trade Licensing Bill 2022 today. And as we've been reporting, it has been met, the proposed law that is, has been met with objection from various quarters. And this has allowed for public discourse as to whether or not it is the appropriate time for the government to be introducing this piece of legislation for it to be able to collect additional revenues from entertainers, from vendors, and for people who are directly affected by this bill. And so part of what has been put on the table insofar as the public discourse is the need for there to be more consultation. And if I am not mistaken, if I remember clearly, one of the arguments being put forward, and this came from the opposition during their press conference last week, is that perhaps there should have been consultation prior to the introduction of this bill, right? Well, it's something for one to think about, but in the overall, in the grand scheme of things, when you listen to what entertainers are saying and the fact that they are clamoring for support to be able to make their representation and their concerns heard in respect of this matter, I think where they're coming from is from a place where perhaps they are the most affected, right? And when you look at the language that is being used in this particular piece of legislation, I could also recall that last week an attorney came forward to shed light on what has been presented in black and white, in the sense that, you know, the language of the law as it has been written is very clear insofar as what towns and villages and urban areas are where these taxes would be applied once they come into effect. And so, yes, we begin this process today. I know the Chamber of Commerce as well has taken a position that it has shared openly. And part of what they're discussing or they're calling for is the need for there to be more consultations as well, right? So that begins today.
This is, I'll be honest with this. I'll say this much. The talk of consultations, it has to be a bit clearer because there have been substantial consultations about trade license for quite some time. We've interviewed the Mayor's Association here when they were behind it. We've interviewed village council chairpersons who also spoke about it. And this is from the previous administration. So I think the point that the chamber makes is that perhaps this consultation could have included what the final draft that was presented would have been. You know, the predictability that is needed in being able to establish trade license is one that is understood across the board. I think the fact that there should be a fairness in all persons doing business being able to pay towards some fee is also something to be considered. I think the gray area is really one, the timing with businesses rebounding, if it's the best time to roll out now. And what do you do with small, or I should say micro businesses that are just up and coming and perhaps are not in a place to really, they haven't gotten the proper footing as yet. These are all considerations that do have to be made, and I think that's part of what will maybe come out of the consultations today. But the issue of trade license is one that has been, there's been a need for reform for a long time. And when we talk about villages, although this bill as it exists primarily deals with urban areas, I always use the classification, and I remember the village council chairman from Ladyville especially saying he only relies on liquor license. And look at the large businesses that are in Ladyville, and they use those funds to upkeep that village. So there are villages like Ladyville, there are villages like Keycocker, there are villages like Placentia, there are villages like Bay Vista. And so, you know, it's not just, it's not a homogenous group. It's not all are the same. They're really small villages that, you know, they have 1-2 shops there. And there's some that have large-scale businesses that don't pay trade license.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Ladyville as one of them. I know Bay Vista is arguably the largest village in the south at this point. But in terms of Ladyville, right, when you look at the population size, when you look at the overall tax regime, right, a lot more businesses are now moving to Ladyville because of the way it's set up. It's only a few miles away from Belize City, but it makes a huge difference financially in terms of the tax structures, right? If you're operating from Belize City, you're expected to pay a higher tax, either for property or business or what have you, trade license as well. If you're operating from a village, then it's a significantly lesser, you know, tax that you'd have to defray. And so that is interesting. It's the same thing for Bay Vista, where you see a concentration of people in that particular southern community that is arguably as big, if not bigger, than Punta Gorda town itself, right? Because we've also used that example of saying, look, Ladyville has a larger population than PG. And when you look at the way how revenues are collected based on, you know, businesses, based on property ownership and all of that stuff, it's an interesting dynamic.
And I mean, revenue one thing, but then the cost of upkeep. You know, what do local governments do? They basically upkeep, especially the infrastructure of the municipality that you're in. That's what you rely on. That's what you expect from your council. So there is a lot more. I think that the need for the reform of trade license is one that seems to be agreed upon across the board. It's just how do we ensure that we're not stifling small businesses from even having the potential to grow?
Well, here's the thing, as I was mentioning last week when we had this initial discussion, when you look at the pandemic period and the number of small and micro businesses that have emerged out of the pandemic, because it forced people to think outside of the proverbial box, right? So you have people taken to the online space to do business. You have people who start mom and pop stores. You also have people who have like entertainment areas set up in their property to accommodate, you know, business. And so now these are the same small startups that we're going after, in a sense, to be able to collect tax. And I understand and I fully appreciate the need for taxes to be collected, because that's how the municipal governments, or the central government in this case, is able to operate and to maintain, you know, streets and all these other stuff, infrastructure.
And vendors I know in larger municipalities do pay fees. They're peddler fees. There are other fees that they have to pay for doing business in the city. So this continues to be a contentious issue. I know entertainers and small vendors are the ones who have most concern. So whether it is that they are going, the minister and the CEO, when they were here, spoke very clearly about saying that, in fact, some of the concerns that people have aren't actually in the new bill itself, that there's a differentiation between the rural areas and the urban areas where this will actually be applied, and also that the fees that have been circulating are really a cap on the highest amount that they'd be able to pay based on the income they're receiving. So if the meeting, House committee meeting today or further consultations take place, I think it will be to break down in detail how this affects a vendor that is selling online or a person who is, in a village selling fruit or coconut. And also, of course, entertainers who are still trying to make a living.
Yeah. So if you are affected by this proposed law, now is your opportunity to either educate yourself on what it means and how it will impact you, and you can participate in the discussion by attending the meeting and make your voice heard. So that's the most important thing there. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, Marlene, there were a series of unrelated but rather strange happenings over the course of the weekend where crime and violence are concerned. I know that one of the incidents that kind of stood out over the course of the weekend was one that happened in Hope Creek, where a woman who was at home around 10 p.m., 3 men dressed as officers, identified themselves as such, showed up at her property, at her residence, and told her that they were there to conduct a search for firearms and illegal ammunition and drugs and what have you. So I guess none the wiser, she opens her property, her door, and allow the men in, and they began to rummage through the house, the bedroom, and they made off with a crocus sack with a large sum of money in various denominations, right? In US dollars, in Belizean currency as well. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is that you do have every so often people impersonating officers, dressed like officers, and to an extent carry themselves as such for the purpose of committing a crime. So it's for people to be very, very mindful, to be able to, know for sure if you're looking at an authentic or a genuine police uniform or combat gear, because in this case, they were wearing what appears to have been camouflage clothing, right? And so it's just one of those things that struck me as sort of curious, because it's not that often that we report on these kinds of crimes, but they do exist.
Yeah, and it's scary because you see someone identifies themselves as law enforcement at your door. What exactly do you look for to be sure that they are in fact law enforcement officers and not persons who are impersonating law enforcement? And this is one example of how people impersonate police to be able to commit crimes. It's not the first time, you're right. And that had to be an absolutely traumatic and scary situation for the woman. And thankfully, she's alive to be able to report it. But it is, again, going back to looking at, there's just sensitization sometimes that has to happen. And it only happens, unfortunately, after there's an incident that shows you there's a need for people to know this.
Yeah.
Like when they were taking down names and license plate number, and then you found out you had full right to be able to say, no, you can't take this information. So it is an issue, I know, that it's a chargeable offense. Persons have been charged for impersonating law enforcement, but of course it's too little too late for the trauma that it's already caused.
Well, another thing that comes to mind too, and we've said this repeatedly as well, people have to be very, very careful how they keep money at home, right? As I mentioned, in this case, the money was in a crocus sack, a huge quantity of it. My thinking, I'd go to a bank and just deposit the money and have it there for safekeeping. Other people are comfortable having large sums of money at home, hidden away in a safe deposit box or what have you. But it's a choice that we're making where we need to be very, very mindful and careful of what we're doing when we decide that we'll keep it at home. Right? So that's one. The other thing as well, Marlene, is we have a case of patricide where a son, 31 years old, shot and killed his dad, 69 years old, in Belmopan over the weekend. And this is rather strange because from the police report, what we've gathered is that the young man had an argument with his girlfriend at his dad's residence. They left together, and when he returned sometime thereafter, he's banging on the door, asking for his dad to allow him in. When his dad says, okay, well, quit the noise, I'm going to bed. And then multiple shots rang out afterwards, where the son took the life of his father, Daniel Castellanos, right? And so it's one of those, it's
Unbelievable.
it is unbelievable to think of it, indeed. You know, where a son takes a father's life, or even in a case where you have sibling, you know, this kind of sibling violence, or mother and child, it's just very, very strange when these types of incidents happen this way.
And the circumstances, as we've known them to be so far, are so trivial.
Yeah.
We don't know the full story, but this is what was reported to the police. And, you know, the idea that you can come home upset, and
Yeah.
because your father says something to upset you further, that you choose to take his life in that moment. I mean, we're
Yeah.
looking at Father's Day in the next few weeks. It's unthinkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final one, and this is in Concepcion Village in the north, where a couple gave lodging to an individual, and over the weekend, the husband was found inside the residence, chopped to death, and on the bed, inside the bedroom, was his wife, who was also mutilated, right? And so the woman has been hospitalized, where she's receiving medical attention. And so there's an effort now to apprehend the individual whom they gave lodging to. And so this kind of comes back full circle to what our first discussion was in respect of these crimes, right? Where you have to be mindful of the people you allow into your home. Your home is your domain, your personal space. You can't be naive, or you can't be that trusting that you take for granted that people won't have certain intention to harm you or to rob you or that sort of stuff.
You know, it's unfortunate, but I think we have to be real. And I think given the circumstance, this is not today, this is for a while, but clearly as things get more difficult economically, there are persons out there who are, for whatever reason, inclined to try to find easy ways to get things for themselves.
Yeah.
And there has to be a greater level of caution with who you interact with, who you share information with, and who you let into your home. And this is no blame on victims. I really want to be clear about that. It's not fair that we have to live in that type of society, but I think we have to accept that that's the type of society that we're living in right now, that people can pretend to be law enforcement and come in and rob you or you know, hurt you in some way. People can pretend to be your friends and come and hang out and do the same as well. And so we have to move away from this idea that we're living in quaint little Belize, because time and time we hear these stories, and unfortunately the victims do feel that they're interacting with people that they felt that they could have been safe with.
Two more points. The number of active cases for COVID-19, considering the fact that a new variant is in town, Omicron BA, one is it? Is it
BA2.
BA2, I'm sorry. So we've seen a gradual, steady increase in the number of active cases. And so while the government has not necessarily indicated that there will be new measures to be returned, it's for people to be very, very careful. We know that this is a big weekend coming up with the Agric Show. And yeah, we're going to expect that there will be, you know, that kind of contact that would end with a spike in the number of cases. There's also another one that I wanted you to touch on, the
Well,
Coast Guard rescue.
just, yeah, before, I do want to say that when it comes to COVID, the Minister of Health and Wellness, Minister Kevin Bernard, is at the World Health Assembly currently in Geneva, and this is a gathering of all health officials across the globe, and they are looking at the situation that we're facing when it comes to the health of our nations. The head of the WHO did in fact deliver a speech really driving home the point to people that the pandemic is not over.
Yeah.
I find that I hear some people saying they're taking some extra precautions for themselves. It is, we've been told time and time again, it is now a matter of our own personal responsibility how much we want to keep ourselves safe and our loved ones. On that note though, there is the upcoming rollout of vaccination of children under 12 for primary school age children, 5 to 11. And this is being done through the schools. Now, I've spoken to a few parents who have a lot of questions about this vaccination. And Isani, you're a parent, more, so you will definitely understand. You know, there was hesitation and a need for information when it was for us as adults. When it's your little one, people are even more cautious about what they're going to put into their body. So I do hope that as this vaccination campaign rolls out, that there is information coming out that's going to help people understand. The pediatric or the vaccine for the children is a different dosage than what adults receive. It is not, because we've been told that the Pfizer vaccine expires at the end of May. It is not that batch. It's a separate batch that they're waiting for the children specifically that will be administered. And we do hope that parents will get the information that they need from the relevant sources to be able to make that decision to keep their children safe. We're looking at a resumption of face-to-face classes, hopefully next semester. And, you know, even now if you talk to schools, they're getting children who classes have to close because the teacher's out or students are out. So you're still seeing little pockets of outbreaks in schools. So that would help in keeping the semesters going in full.
I think if you're looking at children ages 5 to 11, there is only so much about COVID that they'd be able to learn. So it is up to teachers and parents to be able to educate themselves, to be able to make a decision. Because if we're looking at kids in a classroom setting and we're looking at the administering of vaccines, well, you need parents' consent to be able to do that. And some parents would object without necessarily understanding or getting a proper knowledge of what the purpose of the vaccine is and what have you, whereas others would go the extra mile and read or get the information, acquaint themselves with it to make a decision for a child. Whereas a child doesn't really have that choice to make at that point. It has to be from an adult, in this case their parents, who'd make that decision.
Yeah, it'll absolutely be the parents' decision. So we do hope that they get the access to the information that they need to feel better informed to make the decision. All right, but yes, of course, there is good news to report from the weekend, a really extraordinary story of the Coast Guards rescuing 3 men who were trapped on the reef. And Isani, this is, there are oftentimes distress calls that the Coast Guard receives and they go out to be able to rescue the persons who are in distress. However, this story is different because their vessel actually sank. And they were hanging on to a piece of the reef. These are 3 foreigners, and they had a device which they used to make an emergency message, distress call, which was received in Miami. And it was at the emergency response center there. So essentially, the Coast Guard went out to try to track them down without knowing the actual location. And you know, it's a happy ending because thankfully they were able to find them, 3 men hanging on to the reef. We've seen the winds, so we know how rough the seas are, and they were able to rescue them. So all 3 men were safely put on board the Coast Guard boat and brought in, and they have not been reported to have any injuries. So an amazing rescue that they were able to execute.
That's a story we'll definitely be following for simply the outcome,
Yeah.
right, with the Coast Guard this morning.
They were in the sea for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Hot and windy and rough seas, and you can hang on to the reef, but thank goodness it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
So that's some positive news to start us off for this morning. Kudos to the Coast Guard team who went out and all those who helped in that response. But that's it for us with Eye on the News. And with that, we're going to get moving into our show for today. And from the reef, we're headed all the way in to the Chiquibul.
Yes, we're going to have the Executive Director of FCD, Friends of Conservation and Development, joining us to discuss the challenges that they're facing presently in the Chiquibul National Park.
That's right. And also a really unique volunteer opportunity for people who are interested to go into the Chiquibul and protect the birds. So we're going to find out more about that in the first part of the show. The second part of the show, as we mentioned, the National Agriculture and Trade Show returns this weekend. And one of the activities that's tied to the Agric Show is their canoe race. So we're going to get the details about that in the final part of our show. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Rafael Manzanero from FCD. So please, stay tuned.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the Split the Bill button where he selects the Evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marion Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And welcome back. We have with us via Zoom this morning the Executive Director of the Friends of Conservation and Development. We have online Rafael Manzanero. Good morning, Mr. Manzanero.
Good morning, Sunny. Good morning, Marlene. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. Trying to make the best of this weather, but yeah, we're okay.
That's nice. That's nice. Well, over here is quite cool, so it's really a change in terms of the temperatures as well. So that's good news for us too.
So let's begin by talking about the present situation in the Chiquibul. I know that you guys have quite a number of challenges that you're dealing with in that area of the country. What has it been like over the past few months in terms of being able to address these issues collectively or individually?
Well, I would say that over the last, since the last time that we were at Channel 5, there have been a lot of developments, of course, occurring. And only to summarize it, forest fires are really more, contained, these days as a result of the temperatures and also because of the rain. So that's really pretty much good for all of us around this part of the country and probably for the rest as well. In terms of developments in the zone, we have seen more of a containment of incursions over the last, 2 years or so. There are still, of course, cattle ranching activities ongoing in the Chiquibul and gold panning that are still the key issues. And thirdly, the illegal wildlife trade. So those are the three main areas that we have been concentrating on over the last few months and weeks. However, the populations of wild animals are returning back after the containment program in terms of the footprint, because you may realize that over the years there have been a lot of human activities, way far inside of Belize. So those ones have been now reduced extensively, and so we are seeing a rebound now of wildlife populations in the Chiquibul. So today it is more safe in a way, the Chiquibul. But now we are looking at other new developments. For example, you will realize that the paved road going from Canoe, heading down to the Mountain Pine Ridge and onwards to Caracol is a new development that, if not properly controlled or managed, then that will be a human footprint, not from across from Guatemala, but a footprint from within Belize. And so that is a new change for us that we are now rationalizing and strategizing how we're going to deal with that human footprint that can advance from within Belize.
Now, people could have accessed Caracol before. It was just more difficult, so not everyone made the trek. Since the road has been in construction, are you seeing a lot more people, a lot more traffic heading in that direction?
Yes, there has been much more traffic now ongoing into that zone, particularly into the Mountain Pine Ridge Forest Reserve, which is really the area where the construction is ongoing right now. You will realize that as a result of the human resources at the forestry department, the problem has now been an accumulation of garbage, more of the hunters now going into that zone. And in fact, as a result of that, Marlene, we have now placed rangers at the Baldy Beacon area, because that is one of the access points that people would be able to advance into the eastern part of the Chiquibul from this part. So we basically are now preparing for that. We already have rangers in position there, where we'll be able to now have a gate and have a controlled program of people that will be accessing those areas. But certainly it is more, and without any doubt that as the road advances more, there will be more traffic in terms of populations from Belize, from villages, from towns heading into that area.
You mentioned something earlier, and I just want to hear your thoughts as to why. You said the past 2 years you've seen a reduction in incursions along the border. What's the reason for that?
I think that, mindful that this has been really an ongoing process, Marlene, so it was not automatic, I would say. It really has been a period of 12 years, of 13 years of work on the ground. So we have been looking at the curves for over the years as a result of our research programs ongoing. First we reported about the containment of Shatero activity, reduced, by 95%. So in other words, there's still a handful of guys around, but that is not really any major problem. Illegal logging was contained some years ago, and just 5 years ago we started to see the reduction in terms of the acreage that is being covered by agricultural farming.
Yeah.
So it is. So I would say that it was not something that happened, by an automatic, change in Guatemala or here as a result of strategies. I think that has been an ongoing one. Probably the saturation point was reaching in terms of the human footprinting. But I would say that the patrol programs, and that is where now we are trying to focus more to be more targeted in approach, so that then we can be able to have more also impact results in terms of a patrol system in the area. I think therefore that just those years of work in terms of arresting detainments, you have not heard, for example, detainments that we have done more recently.
Yeah.
Although the patrols are still out there. So I would say that it was really more a process that has been evolving as a result of patrols and other strategies conducted by with our Guatemalan counterparts over a set of years.
That's
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting that you would mention that, Raf, because indeed we haven't been reporting on any recent arrests made for persons that are crossing over into Belize illegally to poach and to extract our wildlife. And I think for a while there we were probably of the opinion that either it's going by unreported, or perhaps there just isn't as many incidents to report on based on this type of activity.
I would say, Isani, however, that one of the things that we need really to also be aware of is the kind of the strategies with this new government coming in. We have been in discussions with many of the leaders in terms of understanding the kind of the relationship between Belize and Guatemala. Without any doubt, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs still recognizes that we need really to contain that line. In fact, speaking with Minister Eamon Courtney, the idea was really to look at the complete removal of individuals' activities within the adjacency zone. So we have felt that there's still human activities, however, these are really more along the adjacency zone, the 1 kilometer to 1.5 kilometers along the western border. So the concentration of the work is now more over there. Now that really brings a lot of sensitivity and sensitive activities to be done in that zone. So we have come about, for example, farmers. Now, because of the sheer distance and remoteness of the area, many of the cases have been, not to bring them out, and also because of the COVID over the last 2 years or so, the authorities did not really want to bring in, people into the police station. But those strategies, in a way, was really more, of doing a biodata, of collecting the data of the Guatemalans and then putting them along their border. So our more recent discussions with the government is, this is good and well, but the only way that Guatemalans will be able to be contained is really, at the end of the day, we need to detain some of these gangs. So the change of the strategy will have to revert back again in terms of looking at detainments. I mean, no doubt we have come about individuals along the western border. We don't bring them out, but that we
What
are
do you
seeing.
do? Issue a warning or ask them to leave? What do you do?
Yeah, so they're given a warning and they are put on their line. So they're escorted out to their line, which typically has been occurring before, the years before us, and that's what really tended to occur. So I think we need really to be more in strategic in our actions. In fact, discussing with Mr. Loria, the general, from the BDF, we need now to address the cattle ranching activity. That is a strategy that was developed some 3 years ago. We have gone about with the BDF and with the police, with the forestry department, in terms of removing fences and cutting the posts and removal of that kind of investments done by cattle ranchers.
Yeah.
However, these guys will return back. So now what we are looking at is really to keep the cattle. In other words, we believe that the only way that we can do the impact is really for them to suffer on their pockets. That really means the removal of the cattle. Now, these are really remote areas.
Isn't that dangerous though, Raphael? I mean, we know that as FCD rangers, you do participate in assisting with border management, but if you kill their cattle, which is of high value to them, doesn't that then incite a potentially dangerous situation?
Possible. However, we have been in communications with our Guatemalan counterparts, and in the first place, it appears that these cattle are of course not even certified or registered in Guatemala. So these are really illegal cattle activities. As how all cattle are they usually have a tag. Once they are certified, they have a tag. But these cattle don't have any tag. So what we have seen over the last year and a half has been a matter of where Guatemalans don't really retaliate, nor do they go to their authorities really to report that there are actions taken against them by Belizean authorities. So we'll have to take that risk, Marlene, because we have been discussing about cattle ranching for quite some years now. And I would say that has not really ceased. In other words, the cattle ranching activity is still ongoing. And so we believe that the only way that really can have an impact is really to keep where the money is, really.
Yeah. Are they primarily in the adjacency zone, or are they still coming into Belizean land?
At this case, in this matter, it is 1.5 kilometers within Belizean territory. So yes, it's within Belize.
I can recall a few years ago, there was a BDF, a military outpost that was inaugurated, I believe, in South Sabata, if I'm not mistaken. Where are we with that? Because my understanding is that the Joint Patrol would have been able to launch or operate from that particular location.
Yeah, the South Sabata CP was the last of the CPs that have been installed. The idea of that was essentially hitting, yes, the hotspot, which was really south of that region. Those areas are really rugged and inaccessible terrains. So the idea of that CP was basically to have a much more rapid action ongoing in that zone. Well, that area is still active. So that's why our discussions now with the BDF is really, we need to change some of our strategies. We believe that the patrols have to be more targeted. We believe that even though the work is really tough and hard, the commitment needs to be there really to ensure that we can make that difference. So I would say that the CPs to a large extent have been also part of the strategy of reduction of the human footprint all along that western border. However, we need to do more. I think our strategies, as how you will realize, they have to change. We need to adapt as a result of the changing times as well.
Yeah. So you recently met with Minister of State Honorable Mira about the collaboration with the BDF and also with the Prime Minister. Tell us a bit about the commitments that you've gotten so far and what type of work you are hoping you'll be able to get them to do.
So what we're in our discussions, it was primarily to ensure that the BDF is still, really there as the main support system for the protection of those Chiquibul jungles. That commitment is there, and I'm glad that the matter of border security has been, discussed at the governmental level. And in fact, you might have heard about the concept of develop a border protection force. So that has been one of the concepts that this new government has brought in. We certainly would welcome that because primarily the idea was to see more of a green kind of a battalion, in other words, BDF or a protection force that relates more to environmental issues. So the discussions have been really on that and to see how we can be able to be more, impact oriented with our patrol. So we are assessing the conservation posts. We are looking at the needs. Road access is really a tough one. We need to reach out into those areas. We need really to upgrade, that system of roads to be able to bring in the people around those areas that have been detained, and of course also for the mobilization of personnel into those zones. So I was saying that in those two discussions with the Prime Minister and with Mr. Mira, the idea was really more to look at that particular program of protection.
What would be the difference between a border protection agency versus the joint patrols that you have now?
The idea has been that the border protection force, from what I understand, at this stage it is still a concept, I believe, but as far as I understand, the idea was really to be more green in this concept of work. In other words, to be able to operate into these protected areas under the provision of those of the National Protected Area Systems Act, the Forest Act, so that it really can be more a smooth kind of an operation with the NGOs operating in these areas. I know that one of the concentrated efforts would have been in the Chiquibul and then head up north into the Baca and then south into the Columbia River. So the idea was really more, and then the BDF would be still in terms of providing more of the firepower, in particular, operations ongoing. So that's from what I understand.
So where are you with the personnel challenges though? Because you're looking at a rather expansive border, and albeit the fact that it's the Chiquibul we're talking about and it's adjacent to Guatemala, do you have enough manpower to be able to patrol that area if you're to switch to a border patrol force or border protection force?
Yeah, so the border protection force, once again, Isani would have been from the government. So we would participate just as how traditional we are doing today. However, we have been expanding, Isani and Marlene, since the last time when I appeared in the program. For example, I mentioned we have personnel now in the Mountain Pine Ridge. We have in the Baca, in Valentin, which is in Caracol, we still maintain rangers there. And then also throughout the conservation post in the Chiquibul National Park. So we have been streamlined now our activities for the Western Maya Mountains. You will have noticed that we have been making a call now for rangers to join us. And we are now looking at career people who really want to make a ranger career for themselves. But yes, we are expanding, and the idea is how do we are able to look at a landscape program? Even though Chiquibul is the largest terrestrial protected area, Chiquibul cannot survive by itself. They are the buffer areas. The Baca is a buffer, the Pine Ridge is a buffer, the Columbia River is a buffer. And so we need really to look at a more scale up of activities if we really want to maintain this ecosystem as best as possible with all the environmental services and goods. And so we have been expanding, and we welcome, young guys, young girls also, we're looking at females as well. And we want to encourage them in terms of joining our team. But we are looking at career people. We don't want a person who comes for 6 months, because this is a program that has to be ongoing. The training capacity that we provide is very unique. As how you all know, our range of program is one that is kind of exclusive. Our system of training is very different. And so we are really looking at those good Belizeans that really want to make a career out of this.
So you're increasing the number of rangers that you have, or you're replacing?
Well, in a couple of cases we'll be replacing, but also we're expanding. So the idea is really to reach. We're hoping we can reach up to from 18 to 24 rangers. Eventually, we need to cover all of these other ranges that we have.
And what's been the level of interest so far? I know your call is ongoing.
Yeah, we actually, I believe we just closed on Friday, the first call, but I would still encourage anyone out there who still is quite interested. We'll be running the interviews, within the next, 10 days or so. So if there's anyone still out there, I haven't really counted as yet how many we have at this stage, but I'm pretty, I'm certain that there would be a number of people that are looking into this kind of taskings.
Yeah. Now the issue with the forest fires, which you mentioned earlier, we have thankfully this year not seen as many forest fires, but that doesn't mean in the past it wasn't a huge problem. Recently there was a fire at the Baldy Beacon, not within the Chiquibul, but I know FCD stepped in to assist. Tell us a bit more about that, and whether or not it was a natural event or if it was human interaction.
In the Baldy Beacon area, as how you noted, and in fact, from that photo there, that road that you see on the image, that road is what separates the Mountain Pine Ridge Forest Reserve to the private lands. In some cases, there are also public lands still in those headwaters, but some of all of these areas that were burnt, in which it appears. Minister Habet, noted it would have been like 1,300 acres or so that was burnt.
Wow.
So in that image that you see, the fire, just basically destroyed everything there. Mindful that these are the Baldy Beacons, so it is called Baldy Hills because of the high altitude area there, and also the kind of the temperatures that are really always strenuous for that kind of ecosystem. So the trees normally are shorter, smaller, the grass are really thick, and it's a whole different kind of an ecosystem there. So that was burnt in. There were a lot of private people that were really worried about this fire, because once it starts, then once it's really a raging fire, you really can't do anything much until you reach to a fire line and be able to stop it there. So that's what really happened with the Belize Forest Department was the main agency that dealt with those fires. We were there to support, and also the private landowners. In some cases, Marlene and Isani, the fire really reached almost right there at the door of some of these properties. So it is one of those things that we have learned, because we just moved into those areas, the Baldy Beacon. So it is a new phenomenon to us. Although we have had also fires in the Chiquibul Bradley Forest, but really to see how people are able to come together as a collective unit to do something about this was quite new to us, I must say. And but these kind of fires, and we always tend really to emphasize this, fires can be controlled and they can be contained. We have gone a long ways of sensitizing the farmers in the Vaca, working with the municipality in Melchor de Mencos, for them to go into the communities like San Jose Las Flores, to Monte Los Olivos, to La Rejoya, and really to speak with the communities there that really how to do preventative actions that really doesn't really create these big forest fires. So in the case of the Mountain Pine Ridge and the Baldy Beacon, from what it appears, it was purely human negligence. We noted that this should be investigated, because this kind of fires are something that should not occur within that ecosystem. this is something that it could have been prevented. So I know that the Ministry of Sustainable Development actually flew over the area. I know Forestry Department was very active in the zone. So I'm just hoping that it's something that doesn't really reoccur again. I know that in some ecosystems, there's also natural fires. There can be in the Pine Ridge, lightning can hit a tree and it starts from there. But in this case, from it all appears it was human negligence.
So when you say human negligence, what do you mean? Like a farm fire that got out of hand, or?
From what we do know, I know the trade winds was in that area there. So they were doing some operations in that zone. I don't know all the details, so I don't really want to go to just make a hypothesis here, but that's why my thinking was that we need really to do, the government needs to do a full investigation, that then the true facts can basically come out.
In a scenario where the lightning strikes a tree and then it sparks a fire, one would say that that is nature taking its course, right? And the fact that notwithstanding how destructive the fire is, it allows for new growth, so to speak. Would you agree?
Yes, particularly in the mountain pine ridge, fire is a part of that ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in the 80s up to the early 90s, fire plants have always been developed for the mountain pine ridge. That is what really used to keep a nice, vibrant, green ecosystem in that zone, because fire is able really to destroy all the other competitors of the pine ecosystem, such as the oaks and the wild craboo and those other plants, and particularly the tiger ferns. If you look at the satellite image of the mountain pine ridge, you will see that the tiger ferns are basically taking a lot of that area now. So that's a secondary kind of a growth coming in. Fire is what really could destroy all of those things, but it needs to be managed. Once it's not managed, it can really create a lot of havoc into these areas. So you're right, fire, particularly in the Pine Ridge areas, it is a part of a management program that has always been there. Here in the Pine Ridge, once again, as a result of the human resources and their limitations, it is not really done so much as how it used to be done in the 80s. The mindful, there are 300 miles of roads in the mountain Pine Ridge, and those roads were really created as fire lines. But those fire lines also need to be clear. They need to be open. They need really to be managed in order to contain fires, because usually the fires are put in different blocks and compartments so that they can be contained. So in this case, what you saw on the imagery, that is not really a controlled fire. That is really more wildfire.
Yeah. So let me just ask. We've talked about the fact that you are getting more rangers on board, and you're doing these other education programs. I know there was a time where there was a fundraiser being held to be able to sustain your programs. Does that mean that things are in a better spot for FCD at this point?
Well, we have always felt that as we expand, then there are new opportunities as well, in terms of looking at new areas for protection. A large part of my job is really to develop proposals, and that never stops. That is always an ongoing activity, mindful that we don't have a stream of finances in Chiquibul, such as other areas like tourism, carbon stocks, water resources. We don't have those kind of streams of financing. So a lot of it is really more engaging with foundations. I must say that the Protected Areas Conservation Trust Pact has been our main collaborator over the years. Of course, it's not automatic. We still have to submit proposals. So a lot of it is really more diversifying, I would say, into other foundations, and trying to ensure that we also can be able to conduct the work with good effect, because with all foundations, once you get finances, that's when the work really starts. That is not the ending, that's only the beginning. So you have to create, good performance. You need to continue on with those kind of funding base. So a large part, I would say, is still foundations. We don't really have a live stream in terms of finances.
Now, two more things, Rafael. One, of course, the summer is coming up, and you always speak about the need for Belizeans to go and see the Chiquibul for themselves. There are opportunities for people to stay and to be able to camp, and now there's even a volunteering activity. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so every year, starting March up until September, we do have what we call the biomonitoring program for Scully Macaws. Macaws, as how you all know, we would have about 350 individual parrots found in Belize. And so the idea is really to have volunteers, can be Belizeans or non-Belizeans, to join us. It is safe, that's why we are opening it really for volunteers. Every year, like last year, we would have gotten about 22 volunteers.
Wow.
So the people can come in for 1 week or up to 2 weeks at a time. That they can join us. They would go along with our research team, and the main job that they would do is basically to have a presence along the nesting sites of these parrots. Once they fledge, then we would leave those areas alone. So we welcome anyone who is interested to join us. It has to be for 1 week because we can really be bringing people every day out, So it could be 1 week, no less than that.
So they just camp out. They camp out at the foot of the tree.
Yeah, we actually have.
That's a cool activity to underdo. Who do you get? What students who go in to do it? People who want to be, who love to be around the natural environment.
Yeah, well, it actually varies, we have had, parents who go with their kid, that they want to bond, with their family there. We actually have students. We got last 2 years, we got, primarily tour guides because of the COVID. So there was not really much activity in terms of tourism. So it's basically open, Marlene. We get a diversity of people joining us.
All right. So how do people volunteer to be the security for the baby macaws?
Yeah, so it's easy. So they just need only to contact our office or to write us at fcd@btl.net. So that's fcd@btl.net and 823-2657. And they would just call to get the form because they need to fill in the forms. And then we pretty much would put them on a schedule. We would transport them there. We give them their rations so they can stay there for a week, and then we bring them back again down to town.
That is cool. All right. And what about other opportunities for Belizeans to be able to explore the Chiquibul?
Yeah, so because it is more safe now, we run also Las Cuevas Research Station. So, so that is a place that can accommodate up to 40 people at any given time. So that's a service that we provide in the heart of the Chiquibul jungles. So if you want to be with your family, you want to camp, or either you want to stay inside of a room, we do have those kind of services. We manage Las Cuevas for the government of Belize. We normally will get us students coming in, so universities can be able to come in and just stay with us. We provide the services, even of food and accommodations. And so for any Belizean out there, once again, you need to call here at the office or to write us because we do have a gate. And so once you don't really have an endorsement from here, then for your own safety that you don't get lost there, then we need to inform our staff, and then you would be allowed to pass in through to Las Cuevas Resource Station. So there you can see there on the image, this thing was created about 25 years ago by the, by the British, so we still actually have that research station on the Western Maya Mountains.
Okay. All right. So quite a bit of an update there from FCD. Most importantly, we're happy to hear that some of the common issues, your forest fires and recurrent incursions, that those are not as bad as it usually is. But of course, Raphael, we want to say thank you for keeping us updated and keep up the great work.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much. And hopefully Channel 5 can also be able to visit us sometime. You're always welcome.
I wish the macaw oversight would be shorter. 1 week is kind of long, but for families, it's a great opportunity.
But it might be a nice one, really, where you can record it. So that could be for a one-day activity. Because we need to bring the story out from there as well, right, Isani?
Definitely,
That's
definitely.
right.
I'm with you.
He's volunteering. You should see.
Right, there you go. Right there.
All right.
That's
Thank
good.
you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. But thanks so much also. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, Isani.
And when we come back, we're going to be talking the National Agric Show and, of course, the canoe race that precedes the Agric Show. Stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Wake up! Wake up! Now which cheese you think you me to eat all the while? Gallo cheese with the blue rooster on the label is the traditional and the real deal. The original Dutch, redback or hard cheese in a Belize. Be aware! Check your label and make sure it is in English and for the Belize market. Gallo cheese with the blue rooster. The real deal. Santiago Castillo Limited, supporting and building our Belizean community for 95 years and counting.
Gaia Edam Dutch cheese, aged and tropicalized, the best formula for the Belize market, exclusively distributed by Santiago Castillo Limited.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind the scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5 Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
And welcome back. Our final conversation for the show this morning is with the Belize Canoe Association. And joining us in studio this morning is the president, Elvin Penner. Good morning. We have with us female paddler, Avis Guides. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we also have Godfrey Alford. He's a member of the Belize Coast Guard and, of course, a member of the Canoe Association. Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Let's talk first of all about the association and what's been going on with the Canoe Association recently in terms of some of your activities and in terms of your involvement.
Well, first of all, the Belize Canoe Association was formed probably 21 or 22 years ago by Julian Sherrard, Louis Cassé, and myself, where we felt it was kind of unfair for the athletes to just have one major race for the year, which is the Ruta Maya. So we decided to do a number of races during the year to keep the serious paddlers active during the course of the year, which also makes the Ruta Maya much better. And then recently we have transitioned from just the marathon canoe racing to sprint kayaking, which is an Olympic event. We've done 3 main events so far. We qualified for the Pan American Games in 2019, which was just before the pandemic. Then we managed to get an invitational to go to the Olympics in Tokyo. So Amara and myself were there, a wonderful experience. And then of course we had 2 junior athletes participate in Colombia at the Junior Pan American Championships. So we've done quite well, but we have a long way to go. We brought a few props with us today for those of the fans that don't really know what canoeing and kayaking is. But we've been quite busy. Even during the pandemic, the international events never stopped. In Belize, of course, we had a break, but we're back in action.
Let's talk a bit about the sport itself, because you're right, we only hear about it around March 9th when there's a Ruta Maya, but there are other races that take place. Are there people who do it recreationally, and how many people do take the sport seriously?
There's a number. We normally have from 12 to 22 teams in any race. Of course, the races leading up to the Ruta Maya, which we have normally 2 races. Actually, our racing season normally starts at the Orange Rock Tacos Fest, where we have a race there, and then we do a race in January and one in February. So those three races are within the preparation time of the Ruta Maya.
Okay.
So most of the winning teams in La Ruta Maya do those races. So those that just do it for the fun, they won't join all of our races, but they do a few to prepare for the Ruta Maya. But we do probably about 10 to 12 races a year. Sometimes we just sanction other persons that would want to do a race, and we would sanction it so we can help them out in the organizing, but probably 10 to 12 races a year.
So Avis and Godfrey, tell us about your experience with the association.
So I have been paddling in La Ruta from 2016 up until last year, but I've been around canoeing my entire life. My dad has been doing this about 23 years to be
He's exact. A paddler?
He's a paddler. He builds the boats and the
paddles. He made those paddles. Okay. So you have literally been around it, and then you got into the boat in 2016. What made you make that shift?
I mean, unfortunately, I have no brothers to to take on my dad's legacy. So I decided to participate while in high school to see if this is something I would want to do. And from ever since, even if I want to come out, I think I can't, simply because I live with my dad. And
you're too invested.
And he looks forward to seeing you race.
He's a very proud dad when I do participate.
And for you, Godfrey?
Well, for me, paddling has always been part of our lives. I'm from the south, a big family. There's 7 of us, being the brothers, and 3 girls. And you know, getting from point A to point B was always paddling. And approximately 16 years ago, start kayaking from Livingston, Guatemala to Belize, then from Puerto Barrios to Belize, I mean to Punta Gorda, which is...
Wait, what? Just for fun?
No, it was competition organized down in Punta Gorda.
Still though.
And you know, I was quite young. I had my older brother, Roland Alford, was paddling then. We had nothing compared to these paddles, but you know, we had big kayaks at the time, but it was ocean, and we grew up along the riverside, and the sea was very close. So for me...
Which community was this?
Huh?
Which community is this?
Punta Gorda.
Okay.
From Puerto Barrios to Punta Gorda, and from Livingston to Punta Gorda.
Wow.
Those were the races in 2006. And you know, I came in second at that time. And slowly we started to hear that races were start organized in San Pedro. The Ear Eco Challenge race they had out there, and we also joined.
That was the one that went around the island?
Around the island, yes. It was a challenge because you had to exit the kayak at times, pick up the kayak, run. It was a 2-man kayak, and you know, then get back in and come down the reef. So it was very challenging, and you know, I win 1 or 2 of those events, along with Gaidy's father who was out there, Amado Cruz, Armin, you know. So it was from back when we were out there paddling. And recently, this year, approximately a month and a half to 2 months, we got the invitation to start training or to qualify for the Pan Am Games, which will be held in Canada.
In Chile. Well, the
Canada.
qualification will be held in Canada again, right?
And you've been to the Pan Am Games before?
I've been to the Pan Am Games, yes. I represented Belize in a different sport. It was bodybuilding. It was first time that Belize sent athlete to the Pan American Games and as a sport, as bodybuilding as a sport. And we did a good representation at the sport, and now I'm trying to reach the Pan Am Games again, this time as a paddler and also as a bodybuilder.
Yeah, that's. But let me. There's something very interesting here, and 2 things stand out. One, if I recall right, I think the boat ride is 4 to 5 minutes from Punta Gorda to Barrios.
Yes, exactly.
So how long does it take in a kayak?
I think we took, with the old kayak at the time, were not designed for racing. We took approximately 7 to 8 hours.
Wow.
And it was open.
And it's open seas.
Open seas. The condition was.
And it's not like within the reef here that we're used to. That's
no,
pretty
no, no.
rough
It's
down
open
there.
seas. We did not have the right paddles, and the kayak were open, and they were not designed for race. So we had to use sponge and cut containers to bail. So it was something new. It was challenging.
Insane.
You know,
that's
extreme.
At
the very least.
For me, you know, at the time, you know, I was pretty young, and so I've been on the seas, paddling for fun, paddling for a living, and also paddling competitive for the past 16 to 17 years.
What's the difference in the skill set between canoe and kayak?
It's quite different when it comes to the paddle itself. The kayak
that's the
paddle.
canoe. I mean, that's the kayak.
The kayak paddle is a double blade. You could come in a neutral blade, a furl blade. There's different types of blades for the kayak adjustment. But the canoe paddle is quite shorter. It's a single stroke blade. And the kayak itself is both sides.
Yeah.
So you get the advantage of speed propelling.
So canoe is one side.
Canoe is one side, and then
sides.
you switch the other side.
Okay,
you know,
it's like this,
both
right?
hands together.
Okay.
Kayak, you open the grip, and you get the chance to hit left and right.
Yeah.
Faster momentum. So.
Which one harder?
I think both of them are pretty challenging. I know Avis testified to that. You know, they're pretty challenging.
Which one for you, Avis?
I mean, I'm a single blade paddler.
Okay.
So to transition into a double blade, it's a bit challenging for me because of the different technique.
Okay.
So I would go back while I'm in the kayak. I would go back and transition into a single blade technique, which is totally wrong. So for me, the double blade is a bit challenging.
Okay. That's interesting.
Talking about extreme event, if you think the event from Puerto Barrios to PG is extreme, try the BTB Love Ski Challenge from Punta Gorda to Corozal.
Yeah.
Very nice race.
How long
Both
is that
of them
one?
have done it.
It was 5 days.
6 days.
Last one was 6 days.
They added a day to minimize the impact on the athletes.
The fatigue, stress levels, right?
It was, for me, I would say, I'm biased because I love the sea, but it was one of the best race, or the best race in Belize, because of the scenery.
Yeah.
You know, we started from Punta Gorda, stopped in Placencia, then Dangriga,
City.
move to Belize City, then San Pedro, and from San Pedro we finish at Corozal.
The last year was Sartaneja first, then Sartaneja to Corozal.
Yeah. Yeah. So
done in legs, right?
Yeah. It's beautiful for the athlete, for the fans as well, and with paddling in a whole, we have hundreds of beautiful stories, but as any sport in Belize, for me, is the support. The support of the family is there, but we need the support of the business community to get sporting in Belize to another level.
So, I think the thing about paddling is that it's not just skill set, it's fitness. I mean, this is a very rigorous exercise that you're doing in being able to maneuver the boats and to have the stamina to survive. What's your training regimen like?
Well, as you clearly mentioned, you have to be generally fit.
Yeah.
An athlete is separated from the regular citizens. You're there 5 to 6 to 7 times a week, conducting different training to incorporate into your paddling. So for us, we would get up early. We start a strength training, a stability training, and then we'll transition into long distance paddling. And then we'll focus into the more specific skills or technique that you need to do the 200 meters. Right now we're training for 200 meters, 500 and 1,000 meters. As well, we also incorporate swimming into our training routine. So it's a vast platform of exercise that we choose to accompany the specific skill set.
So here's my question. How do you find time between your job and the demands of your job and training?
Well, for us as members of the Belize Coast Guard, our commander has different units set up. So for us, part of the paddling team, I'm also part of the Belize Bodybuilding Federation. We get the time to train. So first we start off with partially assisted time. So we get time off for a specific training that comes up, but closer to the events, we would get the full time off to do our training. It's very, very physically demanding, mentally, emotionally. So the athlete has to set their mind that they want to partake, and then the training will set you apart, because in Belize we would be looking for a standard, but what we notice that when we go abroad, the standard is at another level.
They're
Right?
professionals abroad.
It's another level. So we are amateur paddlers in Belize, aspiring to represent our country at the best flight. And for us, we have James Alford, Diana Velasquez, Avis Guidis, and myself aspiring to represent Wilberto Daniels. So with these 5 athletes from the same organization. So for us, that's a plus, because we get to train together. We get to have that support from the association. But for many paddlers in Belize, it's not the same case. But things like these coming on the show and reaching out to the wider public, to reach out and get that support. Support from the business community is very important, as this sport is very expensive. Mr. Penner mentioned that this paddle, it's $1,500 just the paddle. We're not talking about the kayak. We're not talking about diet. We're not talking about equipment, clothing for the sun. The sun is very hot. When we go out there, we get really burnt legs, arm. So it's a very, very expensive sport, but we take it to heart. Most of us grew along the waterways. And when we go out there, we're not representing ourselves. We're doing the best to represent the country.
What's the ultimate goal for you? Olympics?
For me, it's always the Olympics, right?
Which category?
Category is 200 meters, and single and team. But for us as a country, once you qualify as a country, another athlete could come and fill the slot, right? So if Belize was to go and qualify right now in Canada for the Pan Am Games in 2023, then myself would go and qualify, but another member
you're allowed to have another.
Could come and join, so we could go up to 4 paddlers in a kayak. So have K1, K2, 3, and 4.
right, what's the goal for you, Avis?
One day I'd like to reach the Olympic.
Single too?
I'll probably do it in the double blade with at the kayak, the K1s. Yeah, but that's my goal.
What I've noticed that, of course, we have the odds against us because we have a much lesser population. We don't have a big pool to choose our athletes from.
Yeah.
The financial support is not there. We have to struggle to get our teams out there. We managed so far, but the biggest goal for me is just to simply represent the country out there at the best we can.
Yeah.
Be good ambassadors. Talk positive about our country. Let people know we come from the greatest country in the world. We might not have the greatest support in this sport, but we can still be the greatest ambassadors to our country.
So let's talk about the upcoming race ahead of the Agric show.
This is an easy one, no?
Fairly easy.
How many teams? Where are you guys starting from? Where is it scheduled to end? Tell us about the race.
Okay, the race is called it's normally the Happy Cow Showground race.
Okay.
They won't sponsor this year, so we got RF&G to sponsor us, which is always important to try to mention our sponsors because without them we won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's a fairly short race. What makes this one challenging is the water is fairly shallow. So a lot of people, although it's a 3-person race, they would opt to go with 2 persons to easier be able to go with the shallow part. So it is a challenging race in that part. It's only from the Iguana Creek Bridge to the showground, which is probably 3.5 hours. So it's not that tough. Mental toughness is probably the greatest attribute you can have in this sport.
Okay.
If you go to the Ruta Maya finishes, a lot of persons come with their fingers all blistered up. They will get sick and throw up in the canoe. So you have to be willing to suffer to do well in the race. Now, of course, I could do the Ruta Maya and just cruise to the finish line, I'll finish it. But if I want to win, it doesn't come easy. But the showground race is always a good race to have, and we try to tie all our races to some sort of event to add to the actual event, and then the paddlers get a chance to participate in a race and then still enjoy the showgrounds.
What is your anticipation this time around? Because we're only just resuming the Agric show after a pause due to the pandemic. So do you expect more people to come out this time around to be a part of the spectatorship?
We normally have pretty much the same fan base at all of our races, family and friends. What we've noticed with the pandemic, there is more excitement in the air because people were looking forward to an event again. So every event brings a lot of excitement. But there's less paddlers because some businesses don't sponsor anymore because they've probably gone out of business or they've had it very tough in their business. So it has been tough to get sponsorship. For the Ruta Maya, there was several less teams. But the excitement was there. It was the first major sporting event after the pandemic. Very fitting. Ruta Maya was the last event before the pandemic and then the first after. So, but it's a very nice sport. It's you on the water basically. It's not like cycling where you can crash and you can turn over, but most people can swim.
Yeah.
So it's just a very nice family event. You can go and stop somewhere at the river and swim and wait for the paddlers to come by. You service them, and it's just a lot of fun for the family.
And is there still space for paddlers to sign up? Or?
Definitely.
Okay.
We signed up. The Facebook post says race starts at 9, but normally we start registration at 9 and kick off at 10.
Okay.
So the registration will be right at the Iguana Creek Bridge, so you can register on the morning of the race.
You guys are competing, I'm guessing?
I probably will be competing. Yeah.
And you?
Well, for me, my focus is right now getting the team in the best shape possible. We have just yesterday the first trials for the upcoming competition in Canada, and our focus is to get for the next 2 to 3 weeks the guys ready to do an even better time to represent Belize in Canada. So I know that we might have representation at this showground, but for me and part of the team is the big focus.
You're
right
prepping
now.
for 2023?
No, it's August.
Well, the qualification match is in Halifax, Canada.
Okay.
We're probably going to leave on the 29th of July through August the 8th.
And who are you competing against?
We're competing against all of the Americas. Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, Chile. So we're competing against some top guns. Last Pan American Games, Avis and Amaro did qualify, but we only took 1 female and 1 male paddler. This time we're hoping to take 4 males so we can do the K1, 200 and 1,000 meters, the K2, 1,000 meters, or is it 500, I'm not sure, and then the K4, it's 500 meters. So we feel that with a team of 4, we have a better chance to qualify, because if you're paddling against the best of any other country, our best might not be their best, but if we have 4 decent paddlers, we might be able to compete with the other countries.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. So, of course, the upcoming race is only one of the events, and as you clearly say, you are preparing for international competitions. We thank you for coming in and telling us all about it. As you said, the race starts off at 10 a.m.
9 a.m. registration, 10 a.m. the race kicks off.
All right, and you can see the finish of the race.
It will finish actually they paddle from Iguana Creek Bridge down to where the Roaring River meets Belize River. Then they have to paddle upstream to right behind the showgrounds, right behind the corral where they do the rodeos.
Yeah.
So it's a bit challenging as well, because there is one rapids where you have to come out of the canoe and carry it over the canoe. So, but I would like to encourage, of course, fans to come out and watch the race. But those of you who plan to participate in any sort of way in the Agric show, we need to appeal to our people. We've had several events that have gone a bit wrong recently because the crowd, I guess they're anxious. We've had some difficulty controlling crowd, even the Route de Maya. So we're just pleading to all the fans and all the persons who just go there to enjoy themselves. Please be safe. Please take out your family. Make sure the environment is safe, friendly, and enjoyable.
All right. And good luck to you this weekend, Avis, and of course, good luck with the training as well. Thank you all for joining us and telling us about it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, we'll have our wrap up, so stay tuned.
This May will be amazing at Benny's. Get amazing deals and great gifts from Mom. We have Pyrex bakeware, Chicago cutlery knife sets, Corningware, Snapware, and the elegant yet durable Coral dinnerware sets at amazing prices. Check out our impressive line of Sankey appliances and much, much more. Take advantage of these amazing deals all May long only at Benny's, celebrating 75 years of quality and savings.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include Cath Lab, Adult Intensive Care Unit, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty. From our cardiology department to our neurology center, we are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
My name is Wilmer De La Rosa from Santa Elena Town. I am currently a student at Canoe, set for employment training. Enrolled in the electrical installation program. In late July 2021, I got a confirmation that I was successful applicant and would be granted a scholarship from Social Security Board. It was one of the proudest moments for me. I felt very excited to start this new path in my life. So far on my journey as a Social Security Board scholar, my vocational technical scholarship has assisted me in achieving my life goals in so many ways. For one, it has renewed sense of purpose, another chance at professional development, and a start at a new career. This opportunity has paved the way for me to excel in life as an individual and as a member of society. Great things are coming after I graduate from SET. I can promise you that. Applying for a vocational technical scholarship through the Social Security Board is simple and easy. I would advise young people in need to apply. It is possible to create a fulfilling and fruitful life with a Social Security scholarship. Believe in yourself and your abilities and skills. I always say the key is to always keep an open mind and let your determination be your motivation.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi! Off goal! What a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
And we're back. And of course, two great conversations this morning, starting off with what's happening in the Chiquibul.
Rafael Manzanero was able to share with us the challenges and of course the challenges in terms of what they've been dealing with issues of incursions and the overall lay of the land in the Chiquibul, and of course the other challenge, which is for persons who want to volunteer themselves and their time to watch these baby birds.
I think that is such, I mean, I wish a week in the Chiquibul was something I could do, but the idea of just being able to go out there, camp for a week, and know that you're helping in stopping the poaching of the macaws. For viewers, of course, we've reported before that, in fact, there are illegal incursions where they come in and they take the baby birds and they take them back over for sale. And it's an illegal trade that takes place, so you have to be careful. You have to watch over the birds after they've hatched. And so they're asking volunteers to go in and do that. And it really is a cool opportunity. So if you're looking for something interesting to do with your family, contact FCD and sign up. They are also recruiting new rangers.
Yes.
And as Rafael said, they're hoping for career-oriented rangers, people who really want to be able to dedicate themselves to working in protected areas and ensuring that that they're properly protecting the reserve itself. So that call is now open, and you can also contact them for that.
And of course, this weekend is the Agric Weekend, and the Belize Canoe Association is resuming its race just ahead of the Agric show, and we're encouraging people to come out, you know, friends and family, people who are fans of canoeing, to be able to come out and catch a race as well. Right?
That's right.
That's what's going on this weekend.
Well, definitely quite a bit happening. I love to hear from the athletes themselves, how they're working hard and getting ready for the upcoming qualifiers for the Pan Am Games. I got to be honest with you, I never knew that there was a kayak race at one point from Barrios to PG. You and I who know the South know that that's not an easy feat. So we clearly have some naturally talented athletes. It's just giving them the right training and tools needed to be able to compete on an international level.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there we go.
All right, but that's all we have for you this morning. We are grateful that you tuned in with us on this Monday morning. Please remember that we're expecting real gusty winds today and possible showers. Take that into account as you head out and start your day. Definitely a warning for people who head out to sea to take that into consideration. But that's it for us. If you would like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.